Hi, I'm Alzen, and this is my breakdown of The Lord of the Rings. We're going to be starting off with the first movie, The Fellowship of the Ring. The reason for this breakdown is because I just watched this movie with my friend Alex, and he was pretty much just left with more questions than answers. Alex, this video is for you. Please keep in mind that I'm most likely going to be butchering all of the names. If I do, please let me know in the comments down below how to actually pronounce it. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit of backstory that is not spoken about in the actual movies. It's good to know. First of all, this guy right here, Eru Ilúvatar, he is the god of this world. Under him are the Valar, who are kind of like archangels. Then you do have the Maiar or Maiar, don't remember which one it is. They are kind of just like normal angels and are subjects to the Valar. So yes, this is pretty much all just fantasy theology. Tolkien just decided one day, hey, I'm just going to create a religion. Melkor, who is this guy right here, he is the strongest of the Valar. Just to sound a little bit more edgy, he did change his name to Morgoth. For the most part, you do not need to worry about this guy because once the movies start, he is long gone. There was an ancient war. Morgoth had turned some of the Maiar onto his side and fought against Eru and his squad. Morgoth lost, got banished into a void, and is threatening to come back. A notable Maiar for now would be Sauron. He was a servant of Morgoth. You can see he also looks semi-edgy. For majority of the films, you're going to be seeing this guy as a giant red eye at the top of a tower. At the end of the war, Morgoth got banished. Sauron actually stays behind on the earthly plane to kind of plot some sort of way to get Morgoth back. Our story is going to be taking place here in Middle-earth, which you can see on this map. The races that inhabit Middle-earth are elves, men, dwarves, and orcs or uruks. The elves were the first race to inhabit Middle-earth, and they were made by Eru himself. Elves are immortal. They have extremely long memory, far eyesight, and are, according to themselves at least, the fairest of them all. Men are mortal, power hungry, and they fear not leaving a legacy when they die. So their whole focus is making something notable of themselves before they actually die. The dwarves, they mostly just stick to themselves in caves in the mountains. For the most part, they don't care about the world around them, they just care about riches. And then the orcs, they are kind of like ugly vampires because they are hard countered by sunlight. The orcs are also servants of Sauron. Sauron actually made the first orcs out of corrupted elves. Now the orcs can multiply in their own way. There are other races in Middle-earth, but we will get to those when we get to those. Now on to the actual movie. We start off with a epic intro, in my personal opinion. It's black screen, just a singular voice that pretty much tells you the whole premise of the story that I have brought up until this point, just in a much cooler way. To be honest, the lore of these movies is probably longer than most religions, so I'm not going to delve too deep into it. You are told about the great rings, the magical rings. 3 of those rings were given to the elves, 7 were given to the dwarves, and 9 were given to the men. Unknown to everybody else, there was one extra ring that got created. So when the rings of power were created, Sauron actually helped by deceiving the elves. Sauron made the Master Ring, or the One Ring, which is how it will be referred to in the movies, in secret. He put a lot of his own power and evil into this One Ring, and this ring gives him the power to control everybody else who wields a ring. So that is Sauron's plan to take over Middle-earth. This is a great plan, but it hinges on nobody questioning a free magical ring. The next scene that we get is this massive battle between the men and the elves versus Sauron and his orcs. This battle is actually fought in Mordor, the home base of Sauron. I'm going to be giving cool points to Elrond, the elf in this scene, because it's just cool as hell. Dude just stands there while arrows fly past his head. Cool points will be tracked throughout this video. The men and the elves are winning the battle at this point, because they are currently just fighting against the orcs. Then in comes Sauron. Sauron enters wielding this massive like mace or club thingy. Just the aura of him gets him a cool point. Sauron does, however, get a little bit too cocky and does get a paper cut from Isildur right here. And because Isildur got quite lucky with his strike, he managed to cut off Sauron's finger that was wielding the magical ring. And because Sauron put so much of his power into that ring, as soon as they separate, Sauron just dies. So because of this, I will be taking a cool point away from Sauron. So Sauron is defeated, the men and the elves win, the rest of the orcs, they pretty much just scatter. Isildur does loot Sauron for that one ring, so now Isildur has it. The One Ring is extremely powerful. Once again, it gave Sauron a lot of his powers, but in the hands of any other being, the ring does actually corrupt. So the ring is inherently evil and semi-sentient. We will get to that in a bit. The ring does corrupt the wielder, and it corrupts people in different ways. For example, for Isildur, who craves power and to be notable, it pushes him towards that. Other notable things that the ring does is it gives you unnaturally long life, it gives you heightened senses, and it can turn the wearer invisible. So the ring does amplify fear and ambition in Isildur. So Isildur doesn't want to get rid of the ring. He fears losing it, so he wants to use it for his own power gain. Now back to the point of the ring being semi-sentient. The ring always craves to get back to Sauron, but it would settle with anybody equally as powerful as Sauron. That is one of the reasons why the ring actually gives you extended life, to make it more likely that you will bring the ring back to Sauron after the ring fully corrupts you. Isildur does keep the ring for quite a while, but during an ambush, the ring actually betrays him. Isildur puts the ring on because his forces are being overpowered. He turns invisible and tries to run away. Once he makes it to a small lake, the ring intentionally, I'm thinking, slips off of his finger, revealing where he is. Isildur dies, and the ring gets lost at the bottom of that lake for around 2,500 years. So you can see what I mean by the lore of these movies being longer than some religions. After those 2,500 years, that's when Smeagol, or Gollum, finds the ring. It is a extremely loose term of finding the ring. It's actually Smeagol's brother, Deagle, that found it, but we do not get that history until the third movie, which in my opinion is a smart choice to leave that until much later, so that the viewer actually learns a little bit more about how the ring can corrupt before we move on to how Gollum got it. Because, spoiler for a movie that actually came out in 2003, Smeagol kills his brother for the ring. So that scene in the third movie shows you how the ring can easily and quickly corrupt everybody around. Gollum takes the ring, and the ring gives him unnaturally long life. He actually ends up being outcast for killing his brother, spends those 500 years just out in the wilderness, living in caves, eating whatever he could find. So I would say he looks pretty good for somebody that is 500 years old and lives in a cave. So the ring has been lost for about 3,000 years at this point, and this is when Bilbo finds it. Once again, extremely loose term. In the books, Bilbo actually battles Gollum in riddles for the ring. In the movies, the ring once again betrays its owner, goes tumbling down further into the cave system where Bilbo was kind of on a side quest. I say side quest because Bilbo was on his way to slay a dragon. Don't worry about it, it doesn't come up again. Bilbo, right here, he is a hobbit, one of the other races in Middle-earth. Hobbits are talked about by other creatures of this realm as small folk, or halflings. They're roughly about the same size as a child. For the most part, the hobbits just stick to themselves. Notably, they are from the Shire, which is roughly around this area. The main things that hobbits like is eating, drinking, and smoking. Sounds like a perfect life to me. So naturally, Tolkien decided that these would be the creatures to save the world. So the ring does give Bilbo long life as well, because next time that we see him, he is celebrating his 11th birthday. Bilbo is the caretaker of Frodo, who is his nephew. Frodo is going to be one of our main characters in this movie. At the same time we are introduced to Frodo, we are introduced to Gandalf. Gandalf is a wizard. So the wizards in this world are actually Maiar, so they are God sent. Pretty much all wizards are Maiar, but not all Maiar are wizards. I can't believe that I printed that photo just for one shot. Whatever. Frodo does mention to Gandalf that Bilbo has been acting quite strange of late, that he's been looking over old maps and has been talking about just going on an adventure by himself. During Bilbo's actual birthday party, he is tasked with having a speech. Being the socially awkward person that he is, he slips the ring on, disappears, and runs off just so nobody can see him. As soon as Bilbo disappears, Gandalf pretty much instantly suspects that, hey, it has to be a magical ring, and goes to Bilbo's home to confront him about it. At this point, Gandalf is not sure that it is the One Ring. He doesn't even know. He just knows that it is a magical ring. I want to remind you that the One Ring has been lost for about 3,000 years now. So even though Gandalf is a Maiar and was probably there when Sauron was wielding the magical ring, what are the odds of a hobbit that stays pretty much in one place his entire life finds this one thing to save all of humanity? Through a few threats and loving words, Gandalf does convince Bilbo to leave the ring behind, because if again this is the One Ring, which again Gandalf does not know, it would be foolish to send a hobbit out alone with it. Now, Frodo has that One Ring, and Bilbo decides to go on another side quest. So Gandalf asks Frodo to keep the ring secret and safe, while Gandalf goes out to do a little bit of research. Gandalf does go out to Gondor, or more specifically Minas Tirith, or the White City, which is roughly around here. That city doesn't come up in this movie again, or it's not shown at least, so we're not going to worry about it now until the third movie. Gandalf reads about the One Ring and learns that if you want to figure out if it is the One Ring, you throw it in fire and it will reveal its secrets. Gandalf does also learn that Gollum has been captured by Sauron's forces and has been tortured into giving information. Two words were heard: Shire and Baggins. Shire, the place where the hobbits live, and Baggins, the last name of Frodo. So Sauron sends out his special forces of the Nazgul, who are led by the Witch King, to go and find the Shire and this Baggins. So the Nazgul are the 9 kings of men that got the magical rings. They did not want to give up the rings when told to do so, so they ended up being corrupted by Sauron and now do his bidding. I know that it has been 3,000 years and you would think, men would have been dead. But they cannot die, they're kind of like wraiths at this point. So now they are these edgy horse boys, and I know there's some girl out there that thinks, oh, I can change him. No, Stephanie, you can't. So when Gandalf gets back to the Shire, he goes to Frodo's place, asks him for the ring, takes the ring and throws it in fire, and out come these letters that you see over here. And that just proves this is the One Ring. So Gandalf knows that the One Ring has to be destroyed, and he also knows that it can only be destroyed in the same place that it was created, which is down in Mordor. And this is also the same scene that we get our bestie Sam. Sam is the type of person that everybody should strive for. He is a true ride or die. Sam was definitely not eavesdropping outside of Frodo's window and overheard everything, not at all. Gandalf catches him and tasks him with accompanying Frodo on a small secret mission. That secret mission is taking the ring out of the Shire, because once again it is not safe for them there. Bring it to the town of Bree, which is a little distance away from the Shire, kind of on the border of the Shire, and meet Gandalf there, because Gandalf has another side quest to go on to meet the head of his order, Saruman. So Gandalf goes to Saruman's tower and tells him that the One Ring has been found and that it is now in the hands of a hobbit. Saruman has actually turned evil, which would be a dead given because he lives in a tower. Saruman tries to convince Gandalf to join him on the dark side. Gandalf does refuse. Saruman does actually have this magical bowling ball called a Palantir, which I do not have a picture of because it doesn't really matter. There used to be a bunch of these, and the kings of old used them to communicate with each other over long distances, basically like old school FaceTime. Most of them did end up getting destroyed, but there are at least 2 left that we know of, one with Saruman and the other with Sauron, so they can just chit-chat, send text messages, whatever it is. Because Gandalf refuses to join Saruman, Saruman actually traps Gandalf at the top of his tower. Saruman does, however, have his own secret plan with the ring. He's willing to help Sauron for as long as it takes so that Saruman can get the ring and wield it himself. Saruman also wants the power that the ring can give. While Frodo and Sam are on their way to Bree, they run into Merry and Pippin. Well, actually, Merry and Pippin run into Frodo and Sam. And these two are going to be Comic Relief 1 and Comic Relief 2. So our duo now becomes a quartet, which is really nice because we're finally having a group form. Around the same time, the Nazgul actually catch up to our party. They have been tracking the ring wherever it goes, and we do actually get to see how the ring works and tries to get back to Sauron. So the ring, knowing that this is a way to get back to Sauron, kind of convinces Frodo to put it on. As soon as you put the ring on, that pretty much just gives a GPS signal to the Nazgul like, hey, the ring is here. So Frodo almost gets caught until bestie Sam creates a distraction, so our four manage to get away. So they're chased by the Nazgul all throughout the night until they manage to get onto a ferry, old school ferry, just a wooden craft, that's gonna lead them downriver and closer to Bree. So once our quartet, I like that word, quartet, makes it to Bree, they go to this shady inn called the Prancing Pony, where Gandalf told Frodo to meet him. Once they get in there, they ask around, but nobody has seen or heard from Gandalf for a few months. And this is where we're introduced to this guy, Aragorn, who instantly gets cool points. Aragorn is the heir of Isildur. He is pretty much the rightful king of men. He never actually wanted that responsibility, so he just decided to run away. Aragorn did join a group of men that kind of protect the smaller undefended villages by order of Gandalf. Aragorn knows Gandalf, and once our party makes themselves known, he is going to be willing to help them actually make it somewhere where they might be able to meet up with Gandalf. Aragorn keeps being the socially awkward person by sitting in the corner and just staring at our four hobbits. This is when Pippin actually makes a huge mistake, tells people that Frodo is a Baggins. Up until this point, Frodo had intended of going by the name of Underhill. Instead, Pippin just blew his cover completely. Frodo, scared that now everybody in that inn knows who he is, goes over to Pippin to try to stop him from talking. Frodo does trip, fall, the ring slips out of his hands, flies into the air, and lands on his finger. Some of you might just go, oh wow, that would never happen, that's just some movie bullshit to move the plot. But do keep in mind, the ring is sentient and wants to be found. Once it lands on Frodo's finger, GPS ping to the Nazgul, they know exactly where he's at. So the Nazguls quickly go over to Bree. They are, however, fooled by the oldest trick in the book by having pillows and blankets underneath the sheets. They get pissed off and run away, basically just mad that they didn't find the ring. So at this point, our quartet becomes a quintet. So Aragorn leads the hobbits out of Bree and has the intention of bringing them to Rivendell, which is this elven town. Roughly about the same time, Saruman gets a message from Sauron with the recipe to create his own orcs. Saruman just starts the process instantly. Our heroes have to take a long rest, and they do that at a old tower called Weathertop. Aragorn goes out to have a look around the area and hunt for some food. Meanwhile, our four hobbits decide this is the best time for a barbecue. The Nazgul, being still close by, just get a smoke signal from the campfire that these three idiots started and this one is trying to put out, and they just instantly head to that tower to try to catch them. I will be giving the Nazgul a cool point for this scene. Our four hobbits try their best to fight against the Nazgul. Being outclassed, they don't really stand a chance. Frodo does get lightly stabbed by the Witch King, who is carrying this magical blade that slowly turns the stabbed into one of the wraiths like himself. Aragorn shows up and fights off the Nazgul and the Witch King, even though at this point he is outnumbered 1-5. Oh, and also he does get cool points for this one. Luckily, the plot is on his side, and Arwen, who is Aragorn's love interest, there we go, is in the area and manages to help them out. Arwen is an elf and is the daughter of Elrond, leader or king of Rivendell. Turns out that Aragorn was partly raised by Elrond. Elrond doesn't want these two to be together because through some magical rules, if a elf loves a human, the elf becomes mortal. So now the movie takes us back to Isengard, where Saruman lives in this giant tower. Isengard has completely transformed into pretty much the Industrial Revolution at this point and is for the most part overrun by orcs. Saruman actually perfected the recipe for the orcs quite a bit and made his own version called the Uruk-hai, or High Orcs. So Saruman now has Orc 2.0. So the Uruk-hai are larger, stronger, faster, pretty much just better in every way than the normal orcs, and also now they are not hard countered by sunlight. Gandalf is still there at the top of Saruman's tower, being tortured and starved, and
Only one Lord of the Ring.
he said the thing. Luckily, Gandalf's Uber shows up in the form of a great eagle. Think eagle, but great. So the great eagles are these messengers of the gods down to Middle-earth. My belief is that Eru did not know that Saruman had turned and was about to send a message down to Saruman. The eagle sees, ooh, orcs, I don't like those, and Gandalf just hitches the right. Plot convenience, yes. Lucky, yes. Cool scene, also yes. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Arwen is now leading Frodo to the elf kingdom of Rivendell. Arwen apparently was the faster rider out of her and Aragorn, so she took Frodo, and Aragorn is following somewhere behind with the rest of the hobbits. However, on the way to Rivendell, the Nazgul actually catch up to them, and now it is all 9 of them. Luckily, plot armor, Arwen reaches the border of Rivendell, which is actually a river, Riverdale. That border is protected by ancient magic from the Valar. It keeps all evil away. Arwen has to just say a few magic words. Also, cool points, Arwen.
If you want him, come and claim him.
The river comes in the form of horses, don't ask, and washes the Nazgul away. So yay, Frodo is safe. So Frodo did get healed by the magical elven healing magic, and they do have a meeting of what to do with the ring. There you have elves, men, dwarves, Frodo, and Gandalf involved in that meeting. So Rivendell, that is roughly around here, is a elven city. It is unnaturally natural. It is really calm, relaxed. Elves just live with nature. Everything is just made in and around nature, all the buildings and such. So the main reason that the Fellowship thought to bring the ring to Elrond is they thought the elves would be able to help them or just fix the problem. But Elrond says, no, we can't help you. My people are leaving. They are actually going to a different realm called Valinor, a different continent, kind of. It's kind of this in-between heaven and earth thing where everything lives forever, but it is just a one-way trip to this Valinor place, and you can never return. And the elves have been planning to do this for about 1,000 years now. Now let's get back to the super secret meeting. In that meeting, we do have, well, the notable characters of Elrond, Gandalf, Aragorn, Frodo, Legolas, Boromir, and Gimli. You might realize that these 3 are new. So Legolas is an elf and is extremely skilled with a bow and arrow. And also he's rather OP, which you will come to realize rather soon. Boromir, he is a man, just like Aragorn. He was sent by the kingdom of Gondor down here, Gondor, from Minas Tirith, where his dad is the steward, not the king. Gimli, he is a dwarf, an expert with an axe. The reason that Frodo is at the meeting is because he is the one that brought the ring there, so for some reason he has a vote. All of the people plus the NPCs argue for quite a bit until Frodo volunteers as tribute to take the ring to Mordor. Gandalf fairly quickly agrees to help him, along with Aragorn, Legolas, Boromir, and Gimli. Elrond doesn't care, he's leaving, so Middle-earth doesn't really matter to him anymore. I'm almost running out of space. So Sam, Merry, and Pippin were actually eavesdropping. Sam is really good at that. They heard everything and then just decided, hey, we're going to.
You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring.
Hey, he said the other thing. I ran out of space on this side. So before the Fellowship sets off to Mordor on their main quest, Frodo talks to Bilbo, who has been in Rivendell for quite some time now, because he pretty much just traveled from the Shire out there and then just settled in. Bilbo gives Frodo a sword and his mithril vest, which is pretty much like a chain link vest. Nice armor, nice new sword. This sword glows blue when enemies are near. Outfit change because new day. Our Fellowship is now setting off to Mordor, going from Rivendell down to, I'm going to be on this side, going from Rivendell down to Mordor. Gandalf's plan is to take them over the Misty Mountains, which are these mountains right here. I'm back on this side. Boromir thinks that they should go through the Gap of Rohan, which is down here. Gandalf does not like that idea because that would bring them closer to Saruman. Gimli says that they should go through the mines of Moria, which are roughly around here, I believe. That is a old dwarven mine, or basically a kingdom, that would just take them through the mountains and would be a much shorter path. Unfortunately for our fellowship, Saruman does have spies that are actually crows that fly overhead, spot the fellowship, and see that they are going Gandalf's original route of going over the Misty Mountains. Because of this, Gandalf thinks that they have to change route and go through the path of Carathas, something like that, instead. Saruman, however, anticipates that this is what Gandalf is going to be suggesting, so he knows where they are going now. I will be giving cool points to Legolas for this scene. Dude's just casually walking on top of the snow like it doesn't even bother him. So while on their way over the mountains, Saruman actually causes a avalanche by some magic mumbo jumbo and is slowly trying to bring down the mountain on top. So they are forced to turn back. This is the point when Gandalf tasks Frodo with choosing, hey, which way do you want to go? Do you want to keep going over this mountain where we will definitely die? Would you like to go through the Gap of Rohan where we will most likely die? Or would you like to go through the mines of Moria where we are pretty much definitely going to die? Frodo does decide, hey, let's go through the mines of Moria. Moria is an old dwarven kingdom, like I said before. It was at one point the richest dwarven kingdom, but unfortunately the dwarves in there got a little bit too greedy and dug too deep and unearthed a giant monster. So our party makes it to the secret tunnel. This is the door to Moria, but they have to solve a riddle to get through the door. After some time, they do manage to solve that riddle. Frodo is actually the one that figures it out. As soon as they enter, they are greeted by the welcoming party of dead dwarves all around the floor. Unfortunately for our party, this is also when the Kraken decides to show up and attack them. They manage to run away from the Kraken into the mines, but the Kraken collapses the entrance, so there's absolutely no way of turning back. At this point, they are forced to go through the mines. Going through Moria is going to take them roughly about 4 days if they know the right path, which is honestly a lot better than the 40 days that it was supposed to take to go over the mountain. Inside of the mines is when Frodo actually realizes that Gollum is following them. Gandalf has known about this for at least 4 days now. Gandalf decided not to say anything to the party because he knows deep down that Gollum has a larger part to play in the whole picture. They keep going through the mines, and I'm gonna have to give cool points just to the world for this shot. And they make it to the chamber of Maser Bul, where they find the tomb of Balin, who was Gimli's cousin. Gandalf does find an old book. In that book, the dwarves had written down things that were happening. For example, the fact that orcs had overrun majority of the mine, and they could be heard from the deeps with drums, laughter, echoes, that sort of stuff. The final words that Gandalf reads is, "They are coming," which is quite funny because at the same time we start hearing some echoes from the deep, so the orcs have been notified that they are there. The reason that the orcs are notified is because Pippin, our lovely idiot, decided to chuck a skeleton down a well just to see what happens.
They have a cave troll.
This line is amazing because Boromir is just like, yeah, like we weren't fucked already. So our party is fighting the orcs and the troll. I didn't actually print out a picture of the troll, so just drew him. We do get to see how skilled each and every member of the party is during this fight. Cool points to Aragorn. Legolas actually shows how OP he is right here, so cool points. Aragorn does notice how OP Legolas is, so it kind of becomes a thing in these movies, where Aragorn just says, and then Legolas just takes care of it. The hobbits are rather useless in these fights. Sam, even though he has a sword at this point, just uses a pan to beat him up, so he does get cool points. Frodo does get lightly stabbed. It is becoming a thing at this point. Everybody thinks that he is dead, but Frodo does have the best kind of plot armor, mithril armor, so he actually ends up being okay. The rest of the party goes into rage mode, which pretty much makes me think that everybody else is a barbarian. They do defeat the orcs and the troll. Unfortunately for our party, wave 2 is on the way, so they do have to run. Thousands of orcs show up and surround them, But luckily, an even bigger, badder evil guy shows up and scares the orcs off. This bigger, badder evil guy is a Balrog. The Balrog is a Maiar, just like Gandalf is, but this is what happens when Morgoth twists the Maiar onto his side, turns them into these evil, bad creatures. It kind of looks like fire and shadow. It does or doesn't have wings. For your own sake, do not bring this up on Reddit. And this is the creature that the dwarves found when they dug too deep in the mines. The party has absolutely no chance against the Balrog, so they all have to run, or so says Gandalf. They make it to the bridge of Khazad Dûm. This bridge doesn't meet any safety standards at all. This is where we get the cool line.
You shall not pass!
So also, cool points to Gandalf. Gandalf actually collapses the bridge and the Balrog falls in. Unfortunately, this plan doesn't work perfectly because the Balrog pulls out his whip, tangles it around Gandalf's leg, and pulls him in with him. So unfortunately, our party has now lost their wizard. Now that the big bad evil guy is defeated, the orcs show up again and start chasing our party, so they have to once again run for their lives. They make it out of the mines into sunlight, so the orcs are not able to chase them out. They do take this time to grieve their fallen, and this is when Aragorn uses his first. And Aragorn gets Legolas to pick everybody up because they have to leave before nightfall when the orcs are able to run out after them. We do make it to the woods of Lothlorien. Think Evok forest with LEDs. Here we meet Galadriel, Celeborn, and Haldir. Galadriel is actually ancient even for elven standards. She has these telekinesis powers where she can enter people's minds and talk to them through their thoughts. She can also read their thoughts and feelings. Celeborn is Galadriel's husband, and he is also the king of the elves. Haldir will have a bigger part in the next movie. He is the commander of the elven army. Our party does take a long rest here. Frodo wakes up in the middle of the night and spots Galadriel looking into a pensive. This pensive does show people different things that have happened, things that will happen, and things that can happen. Frodo looks into it and sees what happens if he fails the quest. Thinking that this is too much responsibility for one person, he actually offers the ring to Galadriel. Galadriel is tempted to take the ring because she knows that she's going to be even more powerful than she already is, but she also knows the ring will corrupt her and turn her evil, so she does decline the offer. Honestly, good on her for knowing her limits. Our party does leave Lothlorien, but before they go, Galadriel gives them a few gifts. Every member gets an enchanted cape and lambus bread. This is some magical elven bread. With just one tiny bite, you fill your stomach. So naturally, Merry and Pippin eat 4 of them within a few seconds. Each member does get a special gift aimed towards them. Aragorn gets a elven sheath for a sword and a really cool knife. The sheath keeps his sword from dulling. Legolas does receive a new bow, which makes him even more powerful. Sam does get some elven magical rope. Frodo does get the light of Arendelle. It is basically a star in a bottle, kind of a last resort light against ancient evil. Gimli, being kind of a simp, only asks for one thing, and that is a strand of Galadriel's hair. If these movies came out today, I bet some people would try to cancel them because of this. Our party sets off on the river Anduin, which would lead them pretty much all the way down to Mordor if they took it all the way. They do this using boats that were given to them by the elves. They do sail past these massive, really cool statues of Isildur and his brother that ruled Gondor back in the day. So once again, world gets a cool point. They stop to camp at Parth Galen, mainly to rest, but also because there's a massive waterfall that they can't really go down. It is here that Boromir does get corrupted by the ring and tries to take it from Frodo. This is something that has slowly been happening to everybody in the party, since being close to the ring does slowly corrupt you. Frodo does put the ring on to get away from Boromir, disappears, runs off. Once he's out of range, Boromir actually snaps out of it and comes to his senses. Frodo runs away to a place nearby where he actually runs into Aragorn. Frodo does offer the ring to Aragorn as kind of a test. Aragorn does refuse to take it, solid guy, and they both know deep down that the Fellowship has fallen, and also that Frodo must complete the journey alone. Aragorn knows that the ring is slowly corrupting everybody in the group, and it is best to separate. And this is when Saruman's Uruk-hai actually catch up with our group. Saruman did send them out to go and hunt the party and kill everybody, but bring back the halflings because they had something that he wanted. And once again, cool points to Aragorn for this. He just walks up 1v50 like it's gonna be easy. Gimli and Legolas show up to help out with the fight. Cool points to Legolas. As Frodo is running away, he runs into Merry and Pippin, who are hiding nearby. They try to convince Frodo to join them in their hiding spot, but without exchanging words, they read it on his face that he is leaving and he has to do it alone. To give Frodo ample time, Merry and Pippin actually sacrifice themselves, so I will be giving them cool points. They do get 1 point each. Luckily for our 2 comic reliefs, Boromir is nearby and shows up to help them out. This is where Boromir actually redeems himself to the whole party. Boromir does single-handedly fight a bunch of Uruk-hai before he gets shot with an arrow, but he just stands back up, so cool points. Fights off a few more Uruk-hai and once again gets shot with an arrow, and once again stands up, so another cool point. Eventually he does get hit with a 3rd arrow and does not stand up from this one. The Uruk-hai grab Merry and Pippin, the only halflings that they see, and run off with them. While the leader of the Uruk-hai, actually this guy, decides to walk up to Boromir in knife stabbing range to shoot him with 1 extra arrow. Aragorn does finally show up to finish off the fight. He does get cool points for this. I mean, dude just hit a knife out of midair. That's cool. Boromir is still alive but on the edge of death. As he is dying, his first words to Aragorn are that the Uruk-hai had taken Merry and Pippin. Dude knows that he's about to die, but he's still more concerned about these two than he is about himself. So he does get another cool point for that. Frodo does reach the river once again, gets on a boat by himself, and is intended on sailing to the other side of the river and head to Mordor from there. Best friend Sam shows up and does best friend things. I'm being completely honest. Everybody should strive to be like Sam or find friends like Sam. He is such a ride or die. The Fellowship has fallen at this point. It's kind of a sad ending to the movie. Boromir is given a half Viking funeral where he is put on a boat and pushed out river, but he is not set on fire. This will be a small plot point in the next movie, so just remember that. Frodo and Sam try to find their way to Mordor. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are gonna go and hunt the Uruk-hai that took Merry and Pippin. Basically, the 2 least qualified people are going to do the most important job. And this is where we end the first movie of the trilogy. Let's do a quick recap of the cool points. Elrond 1, Sauron 0, Aragorn 5, the Nazgul 1, Arwen 1, Legolas 3, the world has 2, Sam 2, Gandalf 1, Merry and Pippin both have 1, and then Boromir has 3. This has probably been the longest video that I've ever created. Just the script itself is about 25 pages. I will start work on the next movie as soon as I finish editing this, so I have absolutely no idea when that will come out. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and until next time, have a good one.